Hey guys, Sudsy Wolf here. Welcome back to my series on the Lord of the Rings The Living Card game. We're going to do something a little bit different today, but before I get into that, I first want to take a moment to thank all of you for watching the previous video and for the kind reception you all gave on the Discord channel. I truly do appreciate it. I also want to thank user Essedge who left this comment on the previous video where he said this: "So much for them making encounters challenging. Really disappointed personally. Essedge, you are certainly not alone in feeling this way. After the encounter was released, the general feeling, including myself, was that while the quest was definitely a step in the right direction with regards to difficulty, it wasn't as challenging as what was seemingly promised. This left some players perhaps feeling a little bit cheated. Heck, in the previous video, we were able to stomp through the quest relatively easily. In fact, towards the end, it kind of felt like we were in an ass-kicking competition with 3 legs and no ass. So I thought it might be fun to attempt to try and turn that around a little bit for this video. How, you might ask? Well, a while back on the Discord channel, a user, I think it was Draxor, challenged the community to defeat the encounter without using a single Fate Meter event. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to use the same deck that I used in the previous video. I don't think there was any stipulation on difficulty, so we're just going to do it on adventure to be fair. I haven't made any changes to this deck at all. Haven't optimized it at all. We'll just see how we go. We might have the volume of the game a little bit low. I'll adjust that for you guys.
Make haste to declare yourselves
Yeah, that's a bit better.
Eowyn I am, Eomen's daughter.
So for the opening hand, I want as many 1-cost cards as I can possibly get. So we're going to say goodbye to all of these. Going to keep Unexpected Courage, of course, because that's amazing. Okay, this is something I can work with. Well, we're going to play Unexpected Courage on Gimli, just to get that extra damage.
So be it.
What do we get? Faint. That's fine. Oof. Bringing out the big guns already, hey Staron? Could play this Outrider to try and tank the damage, but I think we're just going to block with Gimli for now, so we can get some more damage with Outrider. Yep. Tuck it on that warg.
I offer my spear.
And drop our threat with the Handmaiden.
Clear as the water of my lady's well.
Take out that warg.
No living
Yeah, because of the Handmaiden, we can start taking care of these cracked dice, which is always good. I think that's probably the one of the first difficulties with this challenge, is that because we can't use the Fate Meter, we can't get the Northern Survivor, so we have to find enough willpower early on to be able to take care of these cracked dice. Yeah, draw that extra card. Nice. Oof. Literally, oof. We're gonna block here. Gimli, take him out. Use that to heal Gimli up because he's a little bit too low for my comfort zone. We've got some nice amount of willpower values going on here. Start hitting that objective, which is pretty good.
come back to the light.
Can't forget him. Nice, buy some extra rounds here. I'll get the Dwarven Axe on Gimli straight away, just so we can start taking care of like the higher health creatures, like that one, I guess. And I'm gonna block with Faramir just to distribute the damage a bit. If that's all Sauron plays this turn, that'd be handy. That'll. Oh. So I'm okay with dealing with this early on, just to get rid of those soft allies. Still got enough to clear these eyes and to get some willpower on the objective. Ooh, whoa! I just made a big misplay there. I should have attacked the wolf. That was dumb. Well. And what sucks is he gains an extra health. Now I can't kill him immediately. Well, that's gonna happen. So the other thing I'd like to do with this video is to discuss the subject of difficulty and the state of the game in terms of its challenge level. I've noticed that across both the Steam forums and the Discord channel that there are many players who are criticising the level of difficulty and challenge that this game poses towards the player. I think a lot of these concerns are very fair, and I'd like to offer my own perspective. I'm going to bait out that event. There we go, yep. That does it. Now I can get Watchful Peace out and not have to worry about that being cancelled. Cool. Now, where was I? Yeah, I'd like to offer my own perspective, both on the difficulty of the game as a whole, as well as the King of Carrion Encounter. And I want to offer my own thoughts about the criticisms as well. I think there's something to be said about the fact that the game is still in a state of limited content when we look at the challenge level. The first campaign in the game, being the Shadow's Reach, is most likely designed to function as an extension of the tutorial, as it seems, where players learn the basics of gameplay through the tutorial, such as basic actions like attacking, playing cards, and some of the more common keywords. The Shadow's Reach campaign, I think, serves to sort of build upon that tutorial, further teaching new players the complexity of the game's systems and the importance of certain mechanics like guard and the fate meter. Yeah, I'll get that on Aaron. Personally, I think that FFI have done a really good job actually in balancing the first campaign as an extension of the tutorial. Because while it's designed to be beaten, it's not always easy. Especially for new players that are just coming into the game. I've often seen comments on the Steam forums of players struggling with some of the quests. Particularly Quest 4, I think. I think this is a good thing, because it illustrates that, well, if half the player base is saying the game is too easy, and the other half is saying that it's challenging, then I can't help but think maybe the difficulty level of the game is in a good spot as a teaching tool. Being part of the core set, the content has to be balanced. The content, I should say, that we have now needs to be balanced as introductory content. I'm going to chuck that on Airwind so that we can get it up to 3 attack to deal with the whites later on. Yeah, so with that said about the introductory content, anyone who's played this content over and over again can easily begin to counteract challenge with experience. It's only natural that the more you play a game, the more experience you get with a game. And after a while, regardless of difficulty, the more experience you have with the game, the easier it is for you as a player to optimize your play experience against that game's systems. That optimization, the idea of optimization, I think is a point that's also worth talking about. Yep. Definitely gonna. Shame to lose that other unexpected courage. 2 Athelian lookouts, not bad. Yeah, I kind of want to deal with as many of these objectives as I can. That is a pain though. Actually, no, he's gonna attack into the handmaiden, so we can get rid of her before we travel. So that's good. Done. I said in the, like I said in the previous video, it's always good to sort of get rid of all your softy allies before traveling past this first location, because when they die, they just create more enemies for you to have to deal with. So, yeah. Right. Yeah, so as I was talking about, the idea of optimal play, whether it's in actual gameplay or actual gameplay decisions or in deck building, I think it's an issue that I can see affecting many of the players who have continued to play the game over an amount of time. Examples of this optimized play include turtling on each location, particularly the first location of each quest, with the aim of building up a solid board state. Shush game. As well as building up a solid board state. Oh, I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, and building up the fate meter as well before travelling on each location. This style of play, while slow, tends to remove some of the risks associated with travelling to a new location, making it kind of easier to gain control of the new board state, which I'm kind of trying to do right now here by sort of killing all the enemies. So as you can see, I'm kind of guilty of this strategy myself. And the issue with this is it can kind of lead to a bit of a samey feel on each of the quests. But in more so than that, I think the optimized style of play also exists in the deck building itself. Because of how the scoring works in the game, which I think is a discussion for a different time, but because of the way scoring works in the game, decks are heavily rewarded and favoured for being versatile. Most top tier, quote, air quotes, tend to be cards that feature, tend to be decks that feature cards that heal, reduce threat, and increase damage output through allies and attachments. This can make deck building appear a little bit linear if the players are playing largely for score. That said, I think the issues with deck building will most likely be fixed naturally over time as new cards come out. With new cards released, we'll see new styles of play, new archetypes in decks, and new mechanics to explore. I'm gonna get Ranger Spear on Faramir here. Oh man, I'm really glad. Having Gimli on guard makes it really hard for any of these enemies to attack, because they don't want to sort of waste an attack. I've noticed that Sauron, or anything that gets negated from block, they tend to just not attack. I should say if their whole attack value is absorbed by block. Yeah, Bayon out.
I don't like wars.
Oh, bummer. That's my... yeah, I made a big mistake. I should have played Campfire. Ah well. Looks like we're gonna lose. We're gonna take some damage here. Oh, that's a bummer. Do your worst. Oh, that'll be right. Kill both of those. Anyway, getting back to the discussion, I think as far as optimal playstyle goes, I think FFI is actually in a really cool position where they can look at how players are optimizing their play and essentially breaking their quests, and kind of use that information to subvert those ways in the future quests. I mean, imagine a situation where a future quest punishes players severely for turtling or delaying the game. All of a sudden, you'd have you'd have players having to change the way they approach that quest. You thought I was gonna forget to play Campfire, didn't you? Haha, got you there. Yeah. You'd have players having to change the way they approach quests, but also needing to reassess how their deck functions, or even the cards that they choose to include in their deck. I've personally seen this with the release of this King of Carrion Encounter. Prior to this coming out, I was running decks that used a lot of cheap, soft allies that I didn't really care if they died. In King of Carrion, I found that these decks struggled a little bit because of the theme and design around the Moonling Whites. All of a sudden, I had to reassess how I approached the encounter by sort of... You saw me do it earlier, and you saw me mention it, where I sort of try and kill off the things like the handmaidens as soon as possible, so that they don't create more enemies in the future. That was a really cool moment for me as both a deck builder and as a player of the game. So, I think, yeah. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, I think, following on from that, is the King of Carrion Encounter itself. It has received a fair amount of criticisms for being too easy. I think the reason for this is that before the quest was released, it was promised to be quite challenging. Despite this, shortly after the quest did release, I noticed there were players that were reporting to have beaten it with perfect scores on challenge mode. While I don't think the quest is easy by any stretch of the imagination, I also don't think it's super hard either. And a larger part of why I think is because of the power level of the fate events on the fate meter. I'll get to that in a bit, because because I think there's an additional reason why the quest isn't as difficult as some players may have wanted it to be. And I think the reason goes back to my earlier point about limited content. Definitely on Erwin. Yeah, I'm going to get that on Erwin because I want to get Starbreach on her. So, Starbreach so that she can get through that hefty objective in the next location, but also she'll get an additional attack against Mordra. So, from a design standpoint, I think any quest or encounter in the game needs to be able to be beaten, but with the current pool of cards available. It means that the difficulty of the encounter has to be lowered to a degree in order to meet the limitations of the card pool. Which is why you might see these tried and true strategies pop up a lot in the community. It's important to remember that in future, any new player that buys into the game should be able to defeat the content that they have access to, using the cards that they have access to, in order to avoid a sort of pay-to-win feeling. Now, this doesn't mean that all encounters have to be muted in a sense to meet the core set cards' power levels. because there will always be new cards in the form of the Valor cards for these new players or free-to-play players to attain, which I'm sure will allow for more difficult future encounters. The last thing I want to touch on is the Fate meter events. This has been a big point of contention amongst the player base. I think a lot of people, including myself, feel like the Fate meter events are very powerful. I actually don't have much of an issue with the power level of the Fate meter events, apart from really one, and that's the 11 Fate cost event on the final location, which is to defeat more Drow just like that. I think it's a little bit. It makes it a little bit too easy, especially when you combine it with the fact that you also have another Fate event on that same location that can deal 5 damage to him. I think what might be better is just to eliminate the 11 Fate event entirely and split the other Fate event into 2 separate, because it's what you can choose whether to do 5 damage to Mordra or 3 damage to up to two different enemies. I think that could be split into 2 and just have those 2. As far as everything else, I'm actually perfectly fine with the balancing as is. And I'll get to why, but we're gonna lose Beowulf, unfortunately, to this objective. Although I might actually be able to complete it, because I've got the Lembas. I can just bring back Erwin to complete it. Or actually, no, that's better. I'm gonna, if I play the Eagle, I can get it and preserve 1 whole resource. Yep. So yeah, the other adjustment that I might make to the Fate meter event is the Northern Survivor one. As he's only 2 Fate in order to trigger him off. I think the only way I would really adjust this is maybe increase it by 1, so that he costs 3 Fate instead of 2. Doesn't mean it's a little bit too easy to trigger him off with just 2 Fate. Like, it's just a Galadriel's handmaiden or a caregiver, or heck, even the Ithilien lookout. It's so easy to get just 2 Fate points. Whereas if he costs 3, that's either a full activation of a hero, or it's going to take 2 allies. I think that might be a little bit more balanced, especially considering the power of the Northern Tracker has on this particular quest, especially that first location with being able to deal with those cracked eyes. So really, those are the only 2 adjustments that I would really make. Even though the other events are super powerful, I do think that they need to exist in order to give some decks, maybe some decks that don't run as much raw damage output, in order to be able to sort of stand a chance, I guess. So I think an interesting challenge for this quest would be, can you defeat this quest without using either of the tactics heroes or Aragorn? That might be interesting. I mean, obviously you'd be allowed to use the Fate meter, but yeah, I don't know, it's just an idea. Anyway, I think I've ranted enough about difficulty for one video, so I want to pass the question on to you guys. How do you guys feel about the difficulty of the game? How do you think that it can be improved? What do you think of the ideas that I presented in this video? Let me know in the comments below, or any way you can. I'd love to hear it. I'm gonna shut up and just play this quest now and try and beat Mordra on this one turn. I think I can do it. Because I've got Gandalf. And I've also got... I can use Gandalf and I can use a Lembas Bread. Numbers. I'm not good with maths.
Smite you if you touch him.
So be it.
Okay. And then we get an extra activation out of Gimli now, which is handy. I'm hoping that he... Oh yeah, that'll do. I have to block with Landreval in order to... Oh, I could have blocked with Gimli or attacked with Gimli, but because he has block himself.
Secret fire.
Oh, this is good. I'm on 38th threat. That's perfect. Now I really have to try and beat Mordra. You can definitely do it. 0 resources. Yep. Now I probably should use Gandalf to clear the objective just for a better score, but nah, I kind of want to get the kill shot with Gandalf for the achievement. By the way, Gandalf on this quest is really good because if you want to get that achievement, you shall not pass, because there's 3 iterations of Mordra.
Every particle of his being.
I wonder what score we got. Oh, okay, I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy with that. Obviously, you can't get a perfect 550 score with this challenge because you can't use any of the Fate meter events. But I only really lost on 10 points because I think the max score you can get is 470. Yep, math checks out, I think. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna leave it there. I'll see you next time. I'm hoping that next video will just be a nice fun little playthrough video using a cool little deck that I just brewed, or to do a little challenge of my own. So hopefully you enjoyed this video enough to stay tuned for that one. I'll catch you next time. Have fun. See you later.